Hello friends, Kishan is here again and welcome you in this video tutorial. In this video tutorial we are going to talk about the Spring Data JPA named query. So if you go to the Spring Data official website documentation, then you'll get the details about the JPA named queries, and here you'll get the all details. And if you come to the bottom, named query you can define in even in XML file, and you can give the name of the named query and named query itself, that is nothing but the JPQL, right? So JPQL is very much similar to the SQL. This is the object oriented version of SQL. So if your database gets changed, then JPQL is not gonna change. That's the benefit. And JPQL again we can define before your entity class like this, right? You can specify the name of your JPQL, and from this name you can access in your query method, and this is the JPQL itself. So we had created this project in our previous example, so let's make another copy of this project in the same workspace, and I'll give the project name as I'm going to specify as Spring Data named query demo. And this is the project I have created. So right now this is showing an error because Maven is going to download all dependency, and Maven has downloaded all dependency. Now error has gone. And if I look into this method, we have a Spring Bootstrap class here, and we have this Spring Bootstrap class implements command line runner, and that's why we have overridden this run method. This method will be called by the Spring Boot automatically when you run this Bootstrap class. And here we had written two methods in our previous demo, right? And if you look into this method calls a local method is called get person info by last name, and from here we are making call to the our service method, and service reference we have auto wide over here. And service method, I'm calling this method, and basically we want to fetch the record based on the last name from our data store, and we get the list, and list we are just printing using the lambda expression for each loop method. Now here in service method we are making call to the $layer method find by last name, and here as we discussed in the previous demo, so here we will have to follow certain naming convention so that a Spring Data JPA will derive SQL query by looking into this method name and method argument. Now we want to define a named query for this method. So what's the way to define named query? So just we have discussed, right? We have seen on the Spring Data documentation website, right? So what I'll do, I'll go to the entity class, and before entity class I'm going to use @named query, and this import will happen from the javax.persistence, and named query will have some attributes. Here you can specify your all named query. So inside the named query, if you have a single named query, then you can use @named query, but we have a multiple named query, so inside the named query you will have multiple named query. So here I'm going to define a person dot entity class dot and name entity class name dot this method name. This is the way to define a named query, and here we can define a named query like select p from person. Here person is a entity class. You press the control and click here, then this is pointed to the this. Here you can even give the qualified name of your entity class name as well. So select p from person, and p is the alias of person. So we want to select entire row, and where you'll have to specify where clause where p dot, and I would say last name, this property name equal to question mark 1. 1 represents we have only one query parameter, right? Placeholder, first placeholder. This represents the index. Now we can access, and from this name we can access our method over here. So I think now that should work properly fine. Now let's run this application and see. Here last name we are going to pass Murphy, right? So if you look at the database, we have 2 records with last name Murphy. So let me run this application. Cool, we got the query is getting fired by the Spring Data JPA, and that is putting a conditional last name equal to question mark in where clause, and we get the 2 records to be fetched from our database, right? So that is working perfectly fine. But you might be thinking, so when we have learned in previous video, we have written a query method by following some convention, and query has been derived from this name itself. So I'm going to tweak this name, right? So find by even though if I comment this portion, still your program is going to run. So let me show you, because now the query will be derived from the method name itself, as we studied in the previous video. So if I run this application, then this is going to run perfectly fine. Right, is it working perfectly fine? Now what I'll do, I'll go to the doc class, and here I'm going to change find by last name person info, like this. And now we'll have to change in your service class as well. So let's make in service class. Now if I run this application, then see we are able to fetch the information or not. Now this is throwing an error saying that no property person info found for the string traverse path person dot last name. Still I want to run this application, then how we can do that? And there is showing some error. So what I will do, I'll go and uncomment this section, and here what I'll do, I'll put this name. Or you can say get person info by last name. Suppose I specify method name like this, and here, and same name I'm going to specify over here. What name we have written over here in my entity class, and this should work. And this basically, this query is getting fetched. Actually this method will fetch query from this named query, and this way our program will run. So that basically I want to explain you. So let me run this application now again. So let's run it again. There is some problem, I think there's some issue. Now you can see we get the output. Similarly, we can define a named query for another method as well. So we have another method is called, here we have so in this method what we are doing, we are fetching the data based on the last name as well as email address. So here we are making call to the here, and here we can define again a named query for this method. So here again you can define another named query, and if you have more than one named query, then you can separate all named query with comma. And here named query name I'm going to specify like this, and named query can define select P from person where P dot last, let me check out first name and email, right? So you can define a first name equal to question mark 1 and email equal to question mark 2, something like you can define your JPQL, right? And that's it. And now let's run this another API and you'll be able to fetch the record based on the first name and email address. So first name I'm going to specify Barry and email address is, you can see over here. Now let's run this application and we'll be able to fetch the record. Now we got the record based on the first name as well as email address, and here is the data. And name of that employee is Barry Johnson, and we got the corresponding entire details, right? So these two API we have ran through query parameter, and this is the way to define a query parameter in a Spring Data. If you have aware about the one of the very famous implementation of JPA is called Hibernate. We define named query in the same fashion in Hibernate as well. So that's all I have in this video tutorial, guys. In next video I'm going to talk about the another annotation is called named native query, and there you can define, instead of define JPQL, you can define a native query. Means you can define a plain SQL query on the top of your entity class, and that we'll see in the next video tutorial. So thanks for watching this video, and this code I'm going to put on the GitHub location will get GitHub location will get in the video description itself. So thanks for watching this video and see you in next video tutorial.